Welcome to Blue Collar Startup. I'm one of your hosts, Mike Nelson, obviously joined by Derek Foster, our other host, and really the visionary behind this whole deal and why we even have a podcast was Derek's brainchild. So today, the past few episodes, we've had some roundtable discussions. We've been talking about get what it takes to get new clients. We've been talking about just the business ownership and entrepreneurship game on a whole. And Derek and I were trying to figure out what to talk about today. We do have some interviews coming up, but in the meantime, we wanted to cover a couple of other things as well. And today's subject, you've heard us use the term unemployable, talking about Derek and
Which
myself.
we both are, yeah.
Yeah, very much so. And if you haven't heard those episodes, just a real quick definition on what unemployable means. It's for people like Derek and myself that really just don't do well as employees. We're very headstrong. We very much have our own vision about how we think things could be done well. And so when we're working for someone as an employee, that becomes a challenge for us. There's many people like that in the world, and very often they end up becoming business owners because it's just so hard for them to take instruction and um, be a positive impact as an employee. What we want to talk about today, though, is the other side of that, right? There's one path to business ownership and entrepreneurship is for wild cards like Derek and myself. But the other side of it is actually working your way through an organization and becoming what we call unfireable, which means that the organization just runs so well with you a part of it that at some point in time, we have to promote you, we have to give you a raise, we have to potentially bring you up into our leadership and then potentially bring you into an ownership class in some form. And there's many ways to do that. But really, it starts with being a good employee. And so we really want to talk about that. I was thinking about this, Derek, and then I'll stop talking. But one of the things that comes to mind, is that saying of in order to be a good leader, you first need to learn how to follow. And, I do think that that's very true. And especially for people that maybe are young in their industry, they don't have a lot of skills and experience. And, really being able to get into an organization like yours, like mine, that is built for bringing people up through the ranks and giving them training and skills and teaching them the things that aren't inherent, but ultimately that unfireable quality. I just don't think that's something you can teach or you can train. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, first of all, great intro, Mike. You
Thank you.
touched on a lot of good stuff, and there's a lot to unpack, in my opinion. And it was funny. I was thinking about, some of our past conversations over the last couple of weeks. One being with Scott and Stacy, where we touched on some of this. And you and I think probably naturally just due to our own experience, where we're looking at this and what we're doing here to help people take that leap into, eventually owning their own business. But Scott and Stacy brought up a whole nother side of it, and I started to think about it and really unpack it. And it's true that not everybody is the same. That's what makes the world go round. Not everybody has the same ambitions or necessarily wants to take on that responsibility of being in business for themselves. And some people are better off following a system. There's nothing wrong with that, obviously. But as I got to thinking about it, we've talked a lot about the entrepreneurship piece, but I think another segment that it opened up, my mind to is, well, not everybody's cut out to do that. And we need people who are going to be good entrepreneurs or managers. And we've had a lot of them on the show that are absolutely fantastic. And to your point, they're unfireable. The companies that they work for depend on them, and they depend on the company. One hand washes the other, take care of each other, and it becomes more of a family type atmosphere. And I think that's the whole purpose of being in business anyway. It's getting along with and learning how to work with other people. And no matter if you're a student who's looking to either explore that option of going into business for themselves or take the path of working for somebody, getting paid for it, learning that trade, getting the skills that they need, and remaining in that role with a company and growing to a point of, as to you alluded to, ownership. there's more than one way to get to, where you want to go, and everybody's different. So, um, I've given it a lot of thought, and to your point, we all want people to have that mentality of make yourself um, unfireable. I've had that conversation with our staff and our leadership team quite a bit, and it's the adage of everybody wants to grow, obviously, move along a path and make more money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, the way to do that is to add value within the organization, no matter what position you're in. Soak up everything that you can, learn as much as you can, produce as much as you can, solve problems, continue to make mistakes and sharpen your problem solving skills at the so-called expense of the employer. It's a natural thing in business to, where you can go and work for somebody for a period of time and make some of those mistakes and refine your skills. So no matter what you end up doing, whether you end up staying at that company or going off to do your own thing someday, um, you're able to learn those things and, continue to accumulate that knowledge. That makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. Do you find that like when you have stressful events like that it really kind of helps top performers shine and kind of brings your team together a little bit?
Yes. Our top performers are very, let's how do I want to phrase this? They're no excuses, push through, do what it takes mentality.
Mm-hmm.
That is the tone that we've kind of set, across the company. And
Yeah.
it plays a big part because I think the transition from, and we've talked about it a lot, but transitioning out of having to oversee and have your hands in every single thing that goes on, it's nice
Mm-hmm.
to know that, there's other people who, roll up the sleeves and do what it takes to get done, and they really take a lot of ownership in what they're doing. And, it was really cool to see. But yeah, those stressful events, you definitely get to learn a lot, not only about the people that you have, but also the processes. And okay, what did we
Yeah.
do well? What didn't go so well? And how can we do it better in the future?
Do you do like after action reports or like debrief after jobs like that to have that conversation with your team?
Yeah, for something like this, we pulled out, a lot of all the stops. So, we had our crews and a bunch of people there. We worked with a couple of subcontractors. So, not only were we managing, our own staff, but we had other companies as well that we were working with. So, yeah, I mean, there's a number of things that could go wrong and
Mm-hmm.
did. Some were within our control, some were without or outside of our control, but you roll with it and go. But yeah, we're all sitting down actually this Friday, tomorrow, which I can't believe it's already Friday almost.
Yeah.
And we're gonna sit down and talk about, all of those things. Just
Yeah, I
wrapping
think
the
that's
head around, all the different units and tracking who did what and making sure that everybody gets, paid on time and everything is accurate. And, it's a process.
yeah. Yeah. I know we've had feels like repeated shakeups in our staffing over the last 6 months. And which has really brought our core team together, our current team really stepping up amazingly well, including Taylor, who's listening to this as she's recording it. So
Yeah,
really
I keep
excited.
hearing a lot of good things about Taylor.
Yeah, Taylor's a rock star.
Great.
We love her. Um, it's just always interesting to me that, in business, like as you go through some of these more stressful things, you really do see who the people, and this kind of leads into our conversation today, but you really see who the people are that like I would call are unfireable, right? Like you really need them. They do so much for your business and they bring so much to the table. Um, you know, Dee, tell me it, from in your experience and from what you see in the current environment, what are the qualities or the attributes of someone in your organization that would be considered unfireable?
Yeah, it's funny. I just had this conversation in our company meeting a few weeks ago, and we have a lot of young leaders, but we also have some people who have been in our industry for a long period of time. And, they've grown, learned, and brought over certain skill sets, but there might be another piece of that total package, for the next step for them that's missing. What I try to do is we have a leadership academy, we have a Daigle cleaning academy. Like all of our employees get the same thing when they come on board with us. And then we also offer additional supplemental trainings before they step into any sort of leadership role or they advance along our career roadmap. Is what we call our path to growth and management within the company. And not everybody wants to move all the way up that, and that's fine. But some people have a really good grasp of what needs to be done in the field, and they may be lacking a little bit with the people skills or the communication, some of the soft skills that,
Yeah.
might not be there. Other people really excel at that piece, but they're missing some of the skills and knowledge of what goes on in the field. And I think that's true to some extent with every organization. So as we're developing people, we try to look at what they're good at, continue to encourage them to do those things and continue to hone those skills, but also provide them with some of the training for some of those soft skills. But to make people, what I always tell people is to be unfireable, do all the little things right, show up on
Hmm.
time, solve problems. I can't tell you how many times that, we've had folks that get stuck on a problem and instead of offering a solution, we're just going to pass that problem on to the next person.
Hmm.
I call it problem passing. But, if you're an employee in an organization and want to grow and advance, to me, you can really demonstrate your level of ambition and your ability to problem solve by simply thinking through the different scenarios that might be in front of you and saying, okay, well, this option, here's the positives, here's the negatives. And weighing all of those options out, going to whoever you're reporting to, whether that's another person in leadership or even a coworker, and saying, hey, what do you think about these three options? And you whittle down, what a good solution is. And then you bring that to your boss or whoever you're reporting to. You run that by them. Chances are they're going to be extremely happy that you thought through the problem and actually
Hmm.
have something that you can give them to help move the solution along. Um, you don't want to be a problem passer. And I think that's one of the bigger things that I see. Um, it's so easy to find information in today's world. Not
Yeah.
all of it's good information. Um, but as you know, you've talked about your YouTube. You've learned a lot of your farming techniques
Oh
through
my God.
YouTube, and I mean, there's all this AI technology that's coming out in our industry because there's only a certain extent of the work that can be replaced, which is a good thing for our staff and employees. Um, but you can still access information by using AI, and you could find a solution if you take the time to look for it. So that's
Yeah.
what I encourage our staff to do. And I always tell them, listen, you're going to get paid later for all the stuff that you do now. And in our organization, that has finally started to resonate. It's not the other way around. Your employer is not going to pay you or give you more responsibility before you prove that you can handle it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have that misconception. I don't. And I see it of younger folks who come on. I see it with some folks that are middle aged or older that come on, and that ability to problem solve is really the key and the link to that says, okay, what is this person capable of?
Yeah. On that problem solving, it's interesting you say that too, because I always look at business ownership and entrepreneurship. Everything that we do in business, we're solving a problem for someone, right? That's why we have a business, because in your case, someone needs janitorial, right? And they don't have a janitorial company, or they don't have an in-house staff that can do that stuff. And so they have that problem. And then so they call on you to solve that problem. Or like with us, the problem our clients have is that the marketing ecosystem it's vast and complicated and getting more and more sophisticated by the day, and they don't understand it, and that's what their problem is. So they call on a company like us to help them understand it and to help create
Yep.
and execute on those strategies. And that's how it is on a business level. But even every single person inside any business, there is a problem that either the client has or the company has, and they're hiring you to help them solve that problem, right? Like for you, you got 122 dorm rooms to clean in a 2-day period. That's a problem, right?
Major
It's a problem.
problem. Yeah.
Yeah, the client had the problem, they needed it done, they hired you. Your problem becomes, how am I going to solve that? And then you're solving that problem by enlisting the help of your team members, of subcontractors, and then their problem, they're the ones actually solving that problem. And along the way, they're going to run into a bunch of other little problems of how to get that done, right?
Yep.
So like every single activity in a business, doesn't matter what industry, comes back to that problem solving. And I'm hammering that so much because as we talk about it, it's like the ability for a team member, employee, whatever term people want to use, to run into a problem and then be able to figure out a solution without having to, be like, hey, Derek, what should I do for this? Or, hey, Derek, what, like, if they can solve that problem or at least come up with some potential solutions, it makes them invaluable, makes them unfireable, right? Like,
Yeah, and taking the time, as to your point, I know you do this as well, but just taking the time to make sure that everybody has what they need is such a
mm-hmm,
simple thing, but a lot of employees get stuck on it and say, "Well, I don't have this, so I can't do it." Okay,
yeah,
well, uh, as a leader, and as an employee, you can help the company as a whole to identify those gaps. If you don't have what you need, put together an email, a text message, a nice list. Hey, here's what I need to accomplish the job. I think it would benefit us long term if we did X, Y, and Z and made sure we had A, B, and C before we send people here or before we do this or that.
mm-hmm,
That feedback, and some people are scared to do it, or some employees, I should say, are, they're scared to do it. Uh, I can't tell you how much I appreciate stuff like that because you can't identify everything, and that level of initiative to say, okay, again, here's a problem. I've identified it. Now, what am I going to do about it? So we
mm-hmm,
don't pass that problem to the next guy. We take the initiative. We put something in place to solve that. And we've had some of our best ideas have come from our employees. It's really amazing. And that's,
absolutely.
yeah, it's great. And that's really what, I love to see. And it's great to see in the development of our people. Uh, it takes a lot of time though in order to build that habit, because once people are used to calling or emailing, whoever their boss or leader or whoever that is, uh, it takes 21 days to build a habit. So there's a period of time where you have to ask them a question back, or something comes to you and
Mm-hmm.
it's like, okay, well, what do you think we should do? And just asking the right questions has been a big help. And we've actually gotten our leadership team to start doing that with their teams, and it becomes contagious. But it's a
Yeah,
long process, and I think from an employment standpoint, and it can really apply to any industry. It's so basic, but just that problem solving and being able to offer solutions and identifying where gaps are, it's huge.
yeah. Yeah, even if it's not a good solution, that's what I tell my team is like, listen, I'm not gonna like fire you or yell at you because you have a bad idea. I'm just happy that you have an idea, right? And then
Absolutely.
if it's not a good idea or it's not one that will work in this situation, and I know that because of my experience, we'll talk it through and we'll come up together with a new plan on how we can do it. But it's yeah, taking that initiative. I know like Taylor who's listening and Kelsey that's on our team and Rebecca, like these guys, just recently all three of those people I have seen come up with solutions on their own without having to come to me and just be like, hey, here's the situation, this is what I was thinking about doing, and I'm like, yeah, do it. Let's see if it
Yeah.
works. Worst case scenario, it doesn't work and we have to recover from that. We got a new problem to solve. But like that's all that we do all day, every day is just solve different problems. Um, And again, it just, them having that skill, or at least maybe it's just the freedom they have in your environment or in our environment to be able to do those things. It's just invaluable. I really can't speak enough to the problem solving ability, and also to what you said on me learning how to farm on YouTube, or like my whole company, I didn't go to school for marketing. You know what I mean? I've been doing marketing for
Hmm.
10 years. And every time someone asks me something I don't know the answer to, bet your bottom dollar, I'm on Google, I'm on YouTube, I'm doing research. Like if it's involved in my industry and I don't know how to do it yet, I'm going to go and learn. And because everything is just a quick AI or Google search away, man, it's like the information is
Yeah.
there. We,
Yeah.
we had a,
It's,
go ahead.
and that's a testament too to your leadership that they felt comfortable to do that. A lot of people have had bad experiences or are used to, and I've learned that over time as well, where their ideas are rejected, and then they don't they don't come back to do that unless you pull
Yeah.
them along. So, that's awesome. That must have been a good feeling for you, I would imagine.
It's, listen, every time one of these guys comes up with a way to make one of our processes better, or to do something differently, or to solve a problem that they're running into, and they've already got, like, it's amazing. It's like,
Yeah.
hell yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Um, and it's, like, and to the, you don't know how to do it and you're going to use different tools like Google and AI. Like we had a client that came to us that we were doing a bunch of design work and different things for, and he's like, hey, he's like, we have this book we need to publish. Have you ever published a book? And I was like, no, but if you give me 10 minutes, I'll be an expert on it. You know what I mean? I was like, get
Yeah.
right on Grok. And I'm like, what are the steps to publish a book? And then it
Yep.
gives me the steps. And then I just do a few more queries. And next thing you know, I've got instructions, and I'm like, hey, I've never done it before. Pretty sure I can make this happen for you if you want me to. And so now we're publishing a book for these folks. And it's just an interesting and fun process to go to. But the point being is, like, any question or situation you're running to at this point, in pretty much any business, man, the solution is just a search away. It takes 2 minutes. It's wild.
Yep.
What a time to be
Yeah.
alive, Derek.
No, it is. It really is interesting.
Yeah.
And things move so fast. That the 13 years now, I think that I've been in the business world and operating a company. It's amazing how different now from 13 years ago things are, and it
Oh yeah.
moves at lightning speed. It really does. So again, making sure the team has what they need to get the job done is extremely important.
Yeah. And I know, and Chris touched on this when we were together a couple episodes ago. Like as a business owner starting a company, you are going to learn a lot of lessons through the school of hard knocks, right? Like you talk about the difference between now versus 13 years ago, and your decision making and the things that you've figured out along the way. And I think that ties in really well with being an unfireable employee, and just being an employee inside a company like yours, where you get the opportunity to learn how to do a lot of things without having to bang your head off a wall every other day.
Yeah.
And you can learn all these lessons, and then so that at some point in time later on in your career, whether it's becoming part of leadership or ownership in your company, or if it's starting your own, I mean, you've already seen and learned so much from a best practices standpoint. A lot easier than just being unemployable and like we are, and then having to go and learn the hard way and pay that tuition. So um,
Yeah. And it's really cool to see. And back, we did complete that large project that you alluded to, and we just sat down and we talked a little bit about that we have a debrief meeting coming up tomorrow just to review it and again figure out what went well, what didn't go so well, and how can we do it better. But I was just so proud of the team and the way that they solved problems throughout the process and
yeah,
made decisions at lightning speed. And they're literally our staff is referring to it as our company, and that's
yeah,
always what I've wanted because it, and it's a great feeling because everybody's bought in, they understand the system, and it's a great place to work and be. And we encourage people to get out of their comfort zone, but we also reward them for it. So
yeah,
that's really
yeah,
cool.
yeah. It's again, I,
So what if
I,
I gotta ask you a question? So
yeah,
we've tossed in, I don't want to cut you off, but we've tossed back and forth, the idea, some different formats for the show. But um, what are your thoughts on, reformatting a bit and looking at gearing some episodes more towards the entrepreneurial section of, what we're trying to accomplish with this whole project and the podcast, and then as well, formatting some for those who, are in project management roles or entrepreneurship roles and actually working for an employer. You got any thoughts on that?
I do. I mean, as we've talked a little bit about it off the air, I do think it's important. Obviously, I'm very passionate about small business ownership and entrepreneurship. It's my personal belief that there's no truer path to freedom than there is to own your own business. But I know that I get stuck in the paradigm of you have to own your own business, right? And like we said at the beginning, like there is a path to own your own business like you and I have done, but the other path is just being a great follower in the beginning and learning and getting all this experience under your belt and then working your way up the company ladder, whether it's a small company or a large company. And then at some point in time, after you've proved yourself to be unfireable, the leadership team and the executive team and ownership team almost have to, if they want to keep you, right, they have to keep you growing. And at some point,
Yeah.
you become a business owner. So while that path to freedom that I always talk about, it's not, there's multiple ways to do it. And so I think that, if you and I are true to our mission with Blue Collar Startup, we really do have to not just focus on the business ownership side and doing it right out of trade school or whatever it is, but really help, I think, our listeners and viewers understand the other side of it. So, having more support staff on, not just the business owners, and talking about what they do and how they do it and how they become unfireable. I think that's a huge lesson for the workforce now and the upcoming workforce, that if you want different things out of life and you're goal orientated, learning how to be a great employee and being unfireable, I'm going to keep saying that term, is paramount. Like there's nothing more important. So I definitely think getting more people on and just learning about what they do to be unfireable and what their day to day looks like and lessons learned. And I think it's important for sure.
Yeah, I want to, I want to sit down and reformat a little bit and come up with some ideas. If our listeners do have any ideas and want to drop them on our email as well, we could certainly we can take any suggestions that people have, what they want to hear and listen to. But I'm excited. I think we got a lot ahead of us, with that and a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't worry, folks, we're still going to talk about entrepreneurship and being successful as a small business owner in the trades, but we're also going to talk about just what it takes to be a great team member, recruit great team members, what they're looking for, or even from an employer side, hearing from people that are employees in the trades that, talking about what they like about their employers and what as business owners we can emulate to, have that same kind of environment. So important lessons learned.
I also want to talk about the fact that we're both wearing coats in just about June.
Listen, we're going up to camp tomorrow for 4 days up in the Adirondacks. It's gonna be like 30 degrees. I'm almost like
May
bringing
have
my like,
snow.
yeah, I know. It's like, and with all the rain, the water's gonna be high. But hopefully the trout will be biting. So we'll find out.
That's good. Well, enjoy it. Yeah, have a good time.
I will. I will. I know we got to wrap up, but before we do, obviously, I just want to take a moment and thank our sponsors. Of course, we've got new sponsor Martin Electric. Thank you very much to the team for your support. And then a couple of our newer ones with People's, Bonaccio Construction, and then of course, thanks to Michael's Group, thanks to MLB Construction. Thanks to Scott and Stacy over at Catamount Consulting for everything that they're doing to help us with the show. Obviously, thanks to Derek and Daigle Cleaning for all the support and staff that are helping us with the show. And then, of course, thanks to Taylor and Kelsey and Rebecca on our team that help make these shows possible and get the editing done and all that fun stuff to get views. So really can't have a show without any of those people. So very grateful and appreciative. Did I forget anybody?
No, I think you're good. We got everybody.
We got everybody. All right. And of course, most of all, thanks to all of our listeners and viewers. Really appreciate you spending your time with us each week to either hear Derek and I talk about stuff or listen to our guests that come on the show to share their experience and their stories from the field. And, we're going to keep going and keep growing.
And that wraps up another episode of Blue Collar Startup. A big thank you to our sponsors, 5 Towers Media, Daigle Cleaning Systems, Daigle Fire Solutions, The Michaels Group, Martin Electric, MLB Construction, Bonaccio Construction, Peoplease, and Catamount Consulting for making this podcast possible. And thank you for tuning in. If you learned something or felt inspired, connect with us on our website at bluecollarstartup.io or email us at hardhat.bcsu@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your questions and topic ideas. Help us spread the word by sharing the show and following us on social media for updates. Until next time, keep on building, keep on dreaming, and keep hustling like your future depends on it.